My current advisory is 17 young men, and the shift of freshman girls versus freshman boys is the biggest shift in the history of the world. You cannot find two groups of people that are less alike. I was used to my freshman advisory girls coming in and dealing with the way that girls deal with emotions a lot of times, and especially 14 and 15-year-old girls talking. With boys, I learned that anything they're dealing with, it comes out in their hands and their legs and in their bodies, and they can't sit still. And so all of my process that I had for my freshman girls, let's sit in a circle, let's create a community where we can be in a safe space. For my boys, none of that worked. And so it was doing a lot of kind of back to the drawing board. As an 8-year veteran teacher, it was just one of those humbling moments where you realize that you never really are through learning it with this job.
I had been familiar in my past with working with homerooms, but at Legal Prep it's a lot more organized, and the expectations of advisory teachers, I don't want to say they're greater, but I feel like that it should be greater.
You have your students who are in your classes. This is sort of a different relationship with these students.
Being an advisor and being a teacher is a completely different role.
Classroom Mr. Hemmer and advisor Mr. Hemmer is a little bit different.
It would be the same maybe as driving a boat and driving a car, right? They both have steering wheels, and that's where the similarities end. Advisory
is about building relationships and pushing kids towards their goals.
As an advisor, you are constantly figuring out where a student is emotionally and adjusting because of that.
Take that responsibility real, because the kids need somebody in this building that they believe is on their side all the time.
When you have someone who's been struggling with that D or F for a long time, and then they somehow manage to bump themselves up to a C or B or A, they're so excited to tell you, and you want to like party it up with them and really celebrate their success because they worked hard for it.
The longer you have the students, you know them, you know what works with them, you build that relationship. It's kind of a balance. I had one student was mad because I was yelling at another student for not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and if you really want to graduate, you said you wanted to walk, and he's like, how come you don't yell at me like that? I'm like, well, would it work? And he's like, well, no.
One of my boys got in trouble this year, and I actually requested a suspension for him. He was very upset, and he asked me, why did you request a suspension? I explained the whole process to him and my reasoning, and at the end he said, I'm still angry at you, but I understand why you did it, and will you please give me a hug?
Sometimes I have to remind myself, stick to your guns or they're gonna walk all over you, and that the expectations are the expectations, and just because you're in my advisory doesn't mean that I'm going to shift those expectations just for you, even though I like you.
It has to be strict, it has to be set rules and regulations. It can't be a free-for-all, because they'll definitely take advantage of that.
Do I want to yell at them sometimes? Yeah. Have I yelled at them sometimes? Every once in a while.
There's bumps in the road, and how you handle those bumps kind of define who you are.
I think there have been quite a few challenges. I think being an advisor is very difficult.
You're gonna fail. And there's gonna be days where you feel like you did nothing right. And that is not only being an advisor, that's being a teacher. There's gonna be days that you're like, whoa, I should just go become a mechanic because I'm doing everything wrong. But at the end of the day, remember that your advisory is your family. And just like you forgive them, and you have compassion for them and love for them when they have their horrible days or weeks or months or semesters or years, you still love them through that. And you have to give yourself that same compassion and love and generosity.
Well, I've definitely had advisees and students accidentally call me mom, so that's funny.
There's parental aspects. I don't want to be the parent, I want to be the cool uncle.
And my boys refer to me a lot as our advisory mom, or sometimes our advisory aunt. But I always try to, when I talk about being their mom, I always try to say I'm their school mom, or I'm your school aunt, or something like that, because their parents do play this immense role in their lives, and I never want to devalue that by pretending that I even play 10% of that in their lives.
You know, we talk about advisory, we talk about working with the kids, but also working with the parents and the extended families is so important.
I do think that it helps sort of figuring out what works best for your parents, like in the beginning. They're the biggest cheerleaders outside of advisory for your girls.
And you build up that relationship with the parents. I really felt that this group, if I hadn't had the parent support that I had, it could have been really difficult, because once you get them on your side, realize that it's not a confrontational. I'm not here to tell you like how bad your kid is. I'm here because I want your kid to be so successful. And here's the things that I need from you. And having those conversations with parents, because parents want what's best for their kids.
And I always want to make sure that in every single way I'm supporting their family life at home, whether that's with a mom or an aunt or an uncle or a grandpa. You have to remember that you have these kids for 8 hours a day for 4 years, and those parents have these kids for the rest of their life.
This group that I just graduated with, I got as juniors. I was their third advisor in 3 years, so they were really mad, not directed towards me, but just like, hey, these advisors are saying we're all supposed to be in this together, and they keep on leaving. And I'm like, oh, I won't leave, I promise you. I'll stick it out, don't worry.
So you can look at the advisory value at Legal Prep in two different ways. You can look at it by data, and we can break down the data and the students that have succeeded and the students that have not succeeded over the years. Or you could look at it emotionally, and you can walk into any advisory room in the building, and you can see those bonds happening, and you can see how important that relationship is. And you can talk to any student in the school and say, okay, well, I'll talk to your advisor about this, or what if I talk to your advisor about this, or who do you trust in the school?
The person that they should be able to trust the most is their advisor.
And you can see that immediate connection and that immediate relationship. Either way you look at it, it's really one of the biggest key levers into making sure that every single student is successful and no one falls through the cracks.
Wow, one word, asking a teacher. Yeah, wow. See, I feel like family's too easy.
The word that I would use to describe advisory would be family.
Man. All right, we'll say home. Ha, we're home. The advisory should be your home in LPCA. This is the place where you should feel comfortable to be.